because you saw it last week. He might have the cheat codes, and the wide receivers talk about it. They're seeing the defenses the same way. That's a dangerous proposition when you look at the prolific passing numbers that Tua Tagovailoa is capable of putting up.
Already a whistle. Today's referee is Ken Williamson.
Sure,
winding the play clock, yeah.
Slow down the offense.
Najee Harris standing back there with Tua. 1st and 10 for the Tide from their own 25, playing the Aggies for the first time ever. Fake to Najee, and that's a pass out to Ruggs, who's got plenty of daylight. First play of the game. How many times have you seen this? 75 yards. Interesting note about that play, Stinch. It was called a rush, not a pass, as Tua threw it behind the line of scrimmage.
It's going to kill his stat line. Got to be disappointed.
So Ruggs is the replacement now at running back this season for the Crimson Tide. Will Reichard, the true freshman, in for the extra point, and just like that, 7-0 Crimson Tide. Junior from Montgomery has 17 career touchdowns receiving. Now he's got 1 rushing.
Take a look at these two guys, Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy. When we talked to Devontae Smith yesterday about what they're proud of in the wide receiver room, he didn't bring up route running. He didn't bring up their hands. Jerry Jeudy just kind of got in the way right there. He talked about blocking and how much pride that they take in the wide receiver room and seeing if they can't get knockdown blocks. He was disappointed with the new blindside rule because he wanted to decleat some guys. You see Jeudy, really more of a position, but look at Devontae Smith downfield. Physical, finishing. That's a point of attack. That looks like run blocking. So yeah, it was a backward pass, and so technically a run there for Henry Ruggs. Nice blocking out in front. Those wide receivers channeling their inner linemen.
And there's a debate up here with the official scorer on whether that was a pass or a run. It was first called a run, but we're going to take a look at this again. I believe the official score now is going to call that a pass. So we'll take one more look at it as Huntley watches the kick go into the end zone. New Mexico State will start at the 25-yard line.
You see him, he's standing on the 21-yard line. Yeah, that's a backwards pass.
It sure is, because he caught that at the 20, but the official scorer is calling it a catch now, a pass, and that would be the longest reception of Ruggs' career. It seems his first thought was the right one, but he overruled himself, and now it's the longest catch of his career.
It's early. He's got time to fix it.
Josh Atkins at quarterback for New Mexico State, and he swings one out to Jason Huntley, and Huntley is met for a loss of 1 on the play as Diggs comes up to make the tackle. This is the unquestioned leader of head coach Doug Martin's team, and he's only a sophomore, and he was voted the team captain.
Well, you can see why. You know, the coaches around New Mexico State really pleased with what they have at quarterback. Mentioned Mike Leach, the head coach of Washington State last week, felt Atkins could play in their league for sure.
Again, the swing out to Huntley, and Huntley gets to the sideline for a couple to be 3rd and long. Aggies with Atkins and Huntley, also have a big-time playmaker at wide receiver in O.J. Clark out there at a wideout. Huntley is on the Senior Bowl watch list. He's one of the best kick returners in the country.
You can see already an emphasis to get him the ball, but to get it away from the line of scrimmage. They know that they are forfeiting size and strength up front. Get it to Huntley in space and turn him into a return man.
3rd and 8. Atkins barely has enough time, feeling the pressure from the Crimson Tide. First from Anthony Jennings, and it's a 3-and-out for New Mexico State. Bama defense on the field with Jennings getting the pressure. Next to him is Shane Lee, the true freshman in the middle of that defense.
And a guy that's going to spend probably more time than what we'll see in Christian Harris, because they'll be in their dime package. There's 6 defensive backs. Shane Lee will likely be the lone linebacker in there oftentimes. A true freshman had to slide in there and be the signal caller for the defense in Dylan Moses' absence due to that ACL injury.
Peyton Theisler punting to Jalen Waddle. Waddle hasn't put a hand up, so he's coming towards the Aggies on this one with a flag down. He gets to the sideline. Got a cavalry in front of him, and again a flag down as Waddle will take it all the way to the end zone. "77-yard return for Waddle, with a punt return for a touchdown against the Ragin' Cajuns last year. But this one's coming back.
Carrying the return, blocking the back, receiving team, number 28. 10-yard penalty, first down.
It's Josh Jobe, the defensive back, who had a couple of pass interference calls go against him last week. So the Tide will be back on offense. They've only had one play so far. Tua to Ruggs to the distance. Tide already on top. Crimson Tide with the home opener at Bryant-Denny Stadium against New Mexico State. Alabama did not score in 2 of its last 3 games in the first quarter. Look at the difference the rest of the game last week once the quarter hit number 2. No trouble today as they've already have a touchdown. And now Jerry Judy's open in space, staying in bounds. First down up near the 29-yard line for the All-American from Deerfield Beach, Florida. All kinds of questions about the offensive line stench. Bama played 4 centers last week.
Yeah, Landon Dickerson starting at right guard last week versus Duke, starting at center here today.
After the high snap, Najee Harris takes it across the 30-yard line. He's starting at center in part because Chris Owens was questionable going into the game. He started there last week. Owens not expected to play today. Dickerson, of course, has only been in Tuscaloosa a month. Transfer from Florida State.
At least the jersey colors are somewhat similar, right? Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have known where he was. So he looked around and saw the talent that was in the locker room with him.
Under center to a faking to Harris. Has to step up with pressure, and he throws a low ball that's dug out by Devontae Smith, and Smith's past midfield. It's another Bama first down.
Good job there by Tua Tagovailoa. We saw this last week. A little bit of pressure, had to work the pocket. Off balance throw. Look at that hands catch. We asked Devontae Smith yesterday, what's the best part of your game as a receiver? He said, I got great hands. Showed it there.
22 yards on that play. Now quickly to Ruggs. And Ruggs is ahead to the 45-yard line. We're still having a debate up here about whether that was a pass or a run to Ruggs for that touchdown. And they are now saying it was a run for Ruggs. So it's a 75-yard touchdown run for Henry Ruggs that started the scoring here today for the Crimson Tide.
Here's what I know for a fact, is it was a catch. Argue the rest of it all you want. Nice run after the catch, as it were, too. There's something that Coach Wiggins, the wide receiver coach here, says, I'm not going to coach you on that. Well, he doesn't have to with this receiver group.
2nd and 8, it's Harris straight ahead. Not much running room there as he's met by a collection of Aggies at the 44-yard line. It's Jamarvin Hartfield that was the first to greet him.
Well, they're being active up front is New Mexico State, and they're without their best player, their interior nose tackle, Roy Lopez, out with an injury. They're saving him for later on in the season. But a couple of rundown stunts, confusing the blocking scheme up front, some loose hats right there at the point of attack.
3rd and 7. Tua. 35-yard line to Devontae. It's another Alabama first down.
See the accuracy from Tua Tagovailoa. But once again, bodies landed right around as he's delivering the football. Takes a little bit of a shot there towards the end. You want to clean that pocket up. You see Matt Womack right there, number 77. Starting at right guard. They've reshuffled, as we mentioned, the interior offensive front. That time New Mexico State able to get there.
To a deep ball. almost picked off as the closest man to it was Ray Buford. It'll be second down as a flag now comes in the neighborhood
Personal
where Tua
foul,
threw it.
targeting number 10 of the defense. The previous play is under review.
Cedric Wilcots. So we'll take a look at this. What's called a targeting penalty, and if it stands, of course, Wilcots is out for the rest of the game.
Watch Wilcots, just a spin move. And big Jedrick Wills at right tackle.
Let's go back to the studio. Matt Austin, our rules analyst. Matt, what did you see here?
Well, I'd like to see another shot of the replay from a different view. It didn't really look like there was much contact high. It looked like he got him in the shoulder to me. This might be a better view. It looks like he comes in, and looks like all the forcible contact is to the shoulder pad. I don't see any real attack. He is defenseless, but I really don't see a high hit. I'd be shocked if they stood with this call.
And Matt, this is part of the new process, right? Because right now you throw a flag on the field, and then the targeting foul is officiated by the replay official here in Bryant-Denny, correct? With the luxury of seeing it from all the angles.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
That's right. They start with pretty much a clean slate. They can do whatever they want to do with it.
Replay official today, Mickey Haddock. The observer is Daniel Boldrick. TV liaison Tom Danner, and of course back in Birmingham in their phenomenal command center led by Steve Shaw and the rest of the Southeastern Conference crew. They'll certainly have every single look at this play and see if the call on the field stands, if Wilcots in fact is thrown out, or if
After
he's back
further
in.
review, there is no foul for targeting. It's second down.
Mr. Austin got it right, so Cedric Wilcots still allowed to play the rest of this one.
And without Roy Lopez, Cedric Wilcots is their best defensive lineman. That was a nice spin move that he worked on Jedrick Wills to be able to get right up field, get into Tua Tagovailoa's face, forced a bad throw, but a clean play by number 10. I like this change to how the targeting foul is being officiated. It makes a ton of sense. Let number 10 keep playing.
So now a 2nd and 10, and the handoff to Brian Robinson, and Robinson around the left side is met out of bounds by Lomax after about a gain of 8 or so, so it'll be 3rd and short. And also, Javon Ferguson is on the sidelines. This guy led the country in tackles last year, and he's got an injury to his left hand, and you see he's got a little cast that he's wearing underneath that glove, I believe, today. So he's limited as well.
Yeah, minus a playmaker like him, a sideline-to-sideline type of player. We just saw an outside run. Now a 3rd and 2 on the red zone fringe.
Robinson, the big bruiser, plows for that should be a first down for the Crimson Tide, local product from Hillcrest High School, at 226 pounds. And we're all wondering, Stinch, who's going to carry the mail for the Crimson Tide this year when they play LSU, when they play A&M in Auburn with the loss of Josh Jacobs and Damian Harris.
Yeah, and Trey Sanders, right? A true freshman, lost him due to injury, a guy that they thought might be able to carry on the mantle. Najee Harris, the top returning running back. They need him to run with a little bit more toughness. Good job there by Robinson of picking up the yards needed to convert.
The 21, clean pocket for Tua to the end zone, touchdown! Jerry Jeudy again. And with that throw, Tua goes over 5,000 career passing yards, the 8th Alabama quarterback to hit the milestone, and for Jerry Jeudy, it's his 18th touchdown catch.
Pretty efficient, those two guys. You look at it last week, Tua Tagovailoa, a career high in completions. It was a career high in receptions for Jerry Jeudy with 10.
14 zip with Reichard's extra point, and you see the passing yards for the junior from Eva Beach, Hawaii. Hooking up once again with one of the top wide receivers in all of college football. Tua to Jeudy. Touchdown, Alabama. Already 14-0 Alabama over New Mexico State after Jerry Jeudy, with 10 catches last week, gets his first touchdown in T-Town as a junior. How about Tua Tagovailoa's numbers when number 4 is on the field?
They look different. It's almost like he gets even better. A really good quarterback, almost doubling his QBR when Jerry Jeudy's on the field, and you can see why. A special player among special players at wide receiver.
Kicking off and punting for the Crimson Tide. And Huntley lets it bounce into the end zone.
So Ruggs has already gotten his touchdown run after a catch, but watch Ruggs. He's just going to run across the defender's face. He's going to pull that defender out wide. Watch Jeudy. He's right here in the slot. Watch him kind of dead leg at the top. And you see the defender? Where are his eyes? The defender had his eyes in the offensive backfield rather. Jeudy kind of slow plays it off the line, then bursts to the corner. Ruggs' route pulls the defender outside away from the potential throw. Easy pitch and catch for a quarterback and his favorite receiver, who are very much in sync.
Christian Gibson in at tailback, and he takes the football and moves up near the 29-yard line for a pickup of 4. It's second down. We've been talking about the fresh faces for the Crimson Tide. Shane Lee, number 35, the true freshman in there for the Tide. The freshman from Burtonsville, Maryland. Dylan Moses out for the season, injured in practice. Josh McMillan also out for the year. This guy pressed into action, played well against Duke in his first game.
It was a really clean game. A true freshman starting versus a Power 5 opponent, Duke, new quarterback, and they played lights out. They opened up in the flex bone or wishbone look, something they didn't anticipate. The inside linebackers for Bama did a great job.
Tackle on 4th down in the first quarter. And 2nd and 7, pocket collapsing for Atkins. He gets rid of it. That's a first down throw to Drew Dan for the Aggies. Let's go back to the studio and our good buddy Dari Noka.
Boys, thank you much. How about A&M Clemson? Big 3rd and 15 for the Aggies. Late first quarter, Kellen Mond swing pass to Cameron Buckley. Gets inside the 20 for a first down. Drive results in a field goal. 3-zip Aggies in the second.
That's a big one that we'll be paying close attention to throughout the afternoon. How about that Michigan Army game? Multiple overtimes today before the Wolverines survive.
Fumble to end it. Otherwise, ooh man, you talk about the Big Ten taking a hit. Army comes away with that one.
First down and 10. Gibson is up near the 38-yard line where he's tackled by LeBron Ray, and DJ Dale also in on that play. Raekwon Davis, as you see, big-time defensive lineman. DJ Dale is a co-defensive lineman of the week. He's also a true freshman.
Just another in a long line. You know, last year, coming into the season, it was, golly, how are they going to replace Deron Payne? Well, they had a kid named Quinnen Williams. He was pretty sporty on the defensive side of the ball, went 3rd overall to the New York Jets. Days for a lot of offensive linemen and coordinators. And now DJ Dale stepping up, plays great with his hands, with good leverage inside.
Comes Bama on the blitz, quick screen to Huntley, and throws the wheel up near the 45-yard line, where it'll be 3rd and short.
That's where New Mexico State's going to make their living today. And it makes a ton of sense, right? Get the ball outside to Huntley. He's a guy that can play in space. See if you can't maintain some possessions. You're down 2 scores. Doug Martin, who's the head coach and also play caller, he gets what he's up against here today. Try to see if you can't move the sticks. You've already gotten a conversion here. Maintain this possession. Of course you want to score, but you also got to try to keep your defense off the field.
Atkins just has to throw it away, and it's 4th down. Terrell Lewis pressuring Atkins, and Raekwon Davis was back there too.
This guy's going to be a menace. Terrell Lewis, eyes on number 24, watch him. Just going to win on an inside rush almost right now. See that quickness? And it ends up really looking like they were trying to run a game. He was so clean up into that gap. He ends up getting upfield. Raekwon Davis was going to work outside, it looked like, in a gap exchange. Davis would have been the contain rusher. Lewis is the inside rusher. 6'5", 250. I give him 6'6", 265. I think they're cheap.
This punt that barely gets off the ground for Theisler. Just plays some keep away from Jalen Waddle. Ends up at 37 yards. Bryant-Denny Stadium. The best winning percentage in all of college football at home, held by the Crimson Tide. Already up 2 touchdowns.
Dangerous with his legs, rolls to the left and throws. 30 yards later, finds Justin Ross. Clemson leads it 6-3, pending the extra point.
Game went down to the wire, Dari, in College Station last year as Clemson hung on, won by 2 points. This might be the stiffest competition the Tigers see all year. Look what happened to Syracuse earlier today.
Might be, yeah. Syracuse got gutted by Maryland today. They were ranked 21. Won't be today. They were ranked 21. Won't be next week.
Throws underneath, or he makes the catch, or excuse me, O.J. Clark makes the catch there. That's a loss of 1 on the play. It'll be 2nd down. Shane Lee was there to make another tackle as the Tide's already up 14-zip. 14 true freshmen played for the Crimson Tide last week with 10 new starters. 2nd and 12, it's Huntley, and he has no place to go. It's 3rd and long. Good luck in the middle of that Alabama defense. Raekwon Davis, the first to him.
It was interesting talking to the coaches yesterday and how the defensive front needs to play some of the zone schemes. They'll see a lot of it. It's a spread offense, an air raid type offense at New Mexico State. And how oftentimes you'll see some of these zone runs, they run it opposite where the back is lined up. The defensive front has to cancel gaps because you've got so many defenders out of the box doing a good job of stopping the run early.
Atkins throws behind his intended target, Clark. It's another quick 3 and out for New Mexico State.
So watch this. So here's Terrell Lewis again right here. They're going to work a little delay game. Watch him kind of pop up, slow play it, and then come inside. Keeps it nice and clean. They're going to run a lot of twists, a lot of stunts. They're good enough to win one-on-one, but you also want to hone some of that, how you work with the adjacent linemen, especially on games and twists.
Punt away from Waddle again. Good job by Theisler, and this goes inside the 20-yard line. Marked down near the 16. It's a punt of 55 yards. Coming up tonight, 7:30, it's our Saturday night matchup as Arkansas travels to Oxford, take on the Rebels. Then on SEC Network alternate channel, we have Eastern Michigan versus Kentucky. To find the SEC Network alternate channel, go to secnetwork.com. Razorbacks and Rebels. Remember, the Rebels came way back in that game in Little Rock last year to win. And you may be thinking, Eastern Michigan? Josh Paschal had to block a punt against EMU 2 years ago in order to beat the Eagles by less than 5 in that game. So who knows, maybe a good one there with Eastern Michigan tonight. Everybody in the SEC paying attention after what Georgia State did to Tennessee. Tua just a bit too long for Judy, 2nd down.
Let him just a hair. No, you're right. You see some of these teams, the way they start somewhat slowly. We just talked about Syracuse. They ended up losing big time to Maryland. It was 63-20, the final. How about that opener in the conference for Mike Loxley, the former offensive coordinator here at Alabama, now head coach for the Terps. That slow start for some of the SEC teams is going to leave some opportunity for some of these other conference teams to squeeze in the top 25.
To a quick throw to Judy up near the 19-yard line. And Coach Saban has used what happened to Tennessee last Saturday as a teaching tool, saying after Georgia State's victory, nobody thought the Panthers and Sean Elliott, who won 2 games last year, were going to go into Knoxville and come out with a win. Everyone should pay close attention. He even referenced what happened here in 2007 with Louisiana Monroe.
Yeah, he's going to use it. He's going to try. I got to tell you, it's a little bit of different circumstance here at Alabama, I think, than what we're seeing with some of these other programs. 2007 was a long time ago.
It goes through 2-2 receivers, and it's almost picked off. Judy and Waddle had a hand on that, and so did Shimon Lomax. It's 4th down.
Job by Lomax. He ended up closing, but that ball just kind of bounces off Judy. 3 straight targets by Tonga Vailoa trying to get the ball to Judy. It came off. It ended up looking like Henry Ruggs was underneath that route, or Waddle rather. And he disrupted a little bit of Judy's concentration. Otherwise, that's likely a completion.
How about Frank Spaziani and New Mexico State's defense forcing back-to-back punts against this offense? DeLong with the flag down. It's a much better kick. It's a fair catch after a 41-yard punt. There's Frank Spaziani, the defensive coordinator for New Mexico State, former head coach at Boston College, has been great friends with Doug Martin for a number of years. In fact, Doug was his offensive coordinator at BC. So, in turn, he came out to Las Cruces to call the defense.
48, kicking team. 5-yard penalty will be enforced from the succeeding spot. 1st down.
That's a couple of penalties now. Got a knock in the back earlier. Job with another penalty on punt team. Punt return, now punt team. Yeah, Spaziani. You know, he was the defensive coordinator at Navy right before Saban got there, and Saban was talking about, I think, did he end up buying Spaziani's house?
They did live together, I think, for a little while as Spaz was trying to get out of Annapolis before he went to Charlottesville. It's pretty neat the connection the two of them share as Atkins is alone in the backfield on a 1st down. He's trying to run away from DJ Dale and throws it into the sideline. So in 1981, Navy defensive back coach. Look at Spaziani in that hair. Still has the same mustache.
See,
38 years ago. And then the following year, Stench, middle of that photograph, there he is in the back. That's Nick Saban. How about that?
we stole Spaziani's hairstyle.
Didn't steal the mustache, though. He was only there for 1 year, and I asked Coach Saban, I said, did Spaz leave you any players? And he got a big laugh out of that, and he said, it's really hard to coach Navy players. The problem is when you're getting after them, there's a fumble down there. Let's see if Alabama came up with this. It is. It's Alabama's football. Saban said when you're coaching those Navy players and get after them, they always say, yes, sir, all the time. It's hard to, they have too much respect for you. He said, stop saying yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want to be angry. Watch DJ Dale. It actually looks like it came from the weak side. Dale had him wrapped up, and it looks like, I think it was Xavier McKinney who came in there and raked it out of there. Shane Lee with the recovery. So if you look at it, that's 2 forced fumbles by the Alabama secondary on the season. Sertan last week forced a fumble, recovered by Trayvon Diggs. This time, this is defensive backfield mate Xavier McKinney.
Spaziani's defense in a little bit of trouble now as Harris tries the edge, and he gets up for 5-yard line, 5 yards to the 45. You mentioned Trey Sanders, the true freshman, breaking his foot in August. Harris and Robinson both suspended due to disciplinary reasons in the first quarter of last week's game. Came on and both played well. Jerome Ford started last week for the Crimson Tide. Harris plowing again ahead to the 41. It'll be 3rd and short.
Trying some of those interior concepts. Downhill runs. That time, Harris would have done well just to follow his pulling guard. Matt Womack, number 77, over there from right guard. It's a little bit more of a concerted effort to keep this ball on the ground. Punt a couple of possessions, get a quick turnover.
And on cue, right up the gut, goes Harris inside the 30. It'll be marked out of bounds near the 22-yard line. So it's a 19-yard gain for Najee Harris.
Watch Alex Leatherwood at left tackle. He ends up blocking 2 on the edge. See him right here? Watch him. He'll block the defensive end first, and then I'm going to take this off of you too. Just enough. You see Devontae Smith again doing work downfield as well at wide receiver.
Brian Robinson now in to spell Najee. Fake to him, and it's incomplete. Batted down. Steve Sarkisian is the offensive coordinator. He coached the national championship game after Lane Kiffin left in 2017. He was the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator the last couple of years. And as you said, a concerted effort to be multi-dimensional on offense this year.
Well, and we asked them why. Because they were piling up yards last year in the RPO-oriented offense. But the problem was when you face a Mississippi State, an LSU, a Georgia, a Clemson, those defenses can take the RPO throws away from you.
Robinson's got no place to go. He'll lose yardage, and he's back near the 23-yard line as Jamias Williams made the stop.
Penetration upfield by Jamias Williams. Great job. A lot of ball handling involved on that play. The snap was a little high from Landon Dickerson. It could throw the timing off. Good job by Williams getting upfield quickly and diffusing that run play. They're going to try to get downhill again in the center of the Aggie defense. Big 95 wasn't having it.
Tua gets this off before the end of the quarter. He does. 3rd and 11 all day. End zone. Touchdown. Guess who? One of the best ever at wide receiver for the Crimson Tide, Jerry Jeudy, 23 yards.
You said it all day. Great protection. You can't stress a secondary. I don't care who Alabama's playing for that long. You got a clean pocket. Tua's able to buy time, just kind of sliding around in the pocket before he finds his favorite target, Jerry Jeudy, and another Alabama touchdown. That's a great recovery on a 3rd and 10 plus after a tackle for loss in the backfield.
And Reichert makes it 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. Jerry Jeudy with his 19th career touchdown, as he is now tied for 2nd all-time in touchdown receptions, and with it, Tua Tagovailoa throws his 60th career touchdown pass.
So here he is again. Watch him work his magic. Jerry Jeudy. And this takes a little bit of time, but breaks right in front of the defender's face. Tua with a little bit late delivery, but great placement. Keeps it away from the defender. Touchdown, Tide.
Jerry Jeudy moving up the record books in Crimson Tide history now with his 19th touchdown reception, giving the Tide a 21-0 lead. Let's check on some other scores. Go back to the studio in Dari.
Yeah, Taylor, a bit of a surprise right now in Athens. Of course, don't expect it to hold, but Georgia taking on Murray State. Eli Wolf catches the pass, gets hit. The Racers recover. Georgia has since gotten it back, but we are late first quarter, 7-7 between the hedges, Dev.
Upset alert?
Racers already? No, come on. Plenty of time.
That needs to make the bottom crawl on all the ESPN channels. Upset alert in Athens.
Too early for that, but I'm sure Kirby Smart is paying close attention. And how about this? Down to the ground goes Atkins as Anthony Jennings comes around the edge for his 7th career sack.
God, what a great get off by Anthony Jennings. He jumps his count. Look how quickly he's moving before Jalen Guerrero is. That is a winning recipe as a pass rusher. Look at this, and look at the strength. That guy does more damage with one arm at a time than any other outside edge rusher I've seen in a long time. 6'3", 260.
Loss of 7 on the play, and Atkins has time. Throws up past the 30-yard line to O.J. Clark. The speedster had 7 catches last week, and now it's 3rd and manageable for the Aggies.
O.J. Clark was a little bit frustrated on the earlier possession. Felt like he had an opportunity to make a catch over the middle, didn't like the placement. See, week 1 was a primary target versus Washington State. Just didn't get going early enough.
So those 3rd down numbers, the Aggies looking for their first conversion, and they'll try the sideline, and it's Christian Gibson. original indication looks like it might be enough. No, actually marked short. And so it'll be 4th down. Yep, stepped out of bounds prior to that 35-yard line. So now New Mexico State 0 for 4.
We're just waiting for the Aggies. We might as well try it. You see the horizontal passing game. I've seen a ton of it, especially the screen game, wide receiver screen game. We were talking with defensive coordinator Pete Golding yesterday. He said, we're just waiting for it. A little screen and go. Try to get the secondary leaning downhill. Haven't seen it yet from the Aggies.
Will Waddle get a shot? It's going to bounce in front of him, and he's not going to be able to field this one either. So Feisler doing his job, playing keep away from Waddle. It's a punt of 39 yards. Out with the statues. Coach Saban's got his as his Tide's up 3 touchdowns. Bryant-Denny Stadium, constructed in 1929, capacity 12,000. By the time they got to 1966, they'd added end zones and capacity was up to 59,000. In 1988, they added a west side upper deck and some spiral ramps as well, so they got it to 71,000. But still at that point in 1988, if Alabama had a big game, they were playing it at Legion Field in Birmingham. Auburn, Tennessee, Penn State, Notre Dame, homecoming weaker opponents were played here as Tua finds Ruggs, and Ruggs is past midfield and he's out of bounds inside the 40-yard line. But massive additions were made through the years. In 2006, the North end zone upper deck and club level made the capacity 92,000, and by 9 years ago, it was over 101,000 people in this place, and now it's one of the best atmospheres anywhere.
I guess. I mean, still no air conditioning?
A little hot, a little warm today after that big catch from Ruggs. Now Brian Robinson takes it inside the 25-yard line, but boy, do they have an advantage in this place. Look at their winning percentage, the best in college football.
Pretty remarkable. You talk about this fan base. They're out here cooking to watch this game. An 831 win percentage here. That's pretty darn impressive. It's not just numbers, right? It's how the fans engage in the game. You know, you hear it. So there it is. First down, everybody chants, roll tide, the fan engagement. These folks get it, and they can impact the outcome of games with their involvement.
As you said, this is one of the hottest games this stadium's ever seen. Look at the temperature and what it feels like. 103 degrees as Robinson's up to the 20. Alyssa, it's got to feel hotter than that down there.
Yeah, guys, it feels a lot hotter than 103 down here, that's for sure. I can say the equipment staff is working absolutely overtime as far as restocking with ice. They've got some contraptions that the guys are wearing on their heads that are like those things that you dunk in the water and then they feel really cold. So I'm trying to find myself one of these on the sidelines, but I did talk to the head team trainer before the game today, asked if they did anything specific as far as hydration. He said, nope, it's just something we've been working on all week long, preparing for the heat out here today.
Legal substitution. Offense, number 8 in the formation. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
You know, those things will drive Coach Saban crazy, but they've taken all kinds of precautions today as there's extra water stations all over the stadium. They said, look, if you're hot, go to the concourse. And I'm looking right now. The concourse is packed around this place at the moment. Plenty of refreshments as well on the sideline. 13 Aggies at least momentarily looked like they were coming at Tua. Taking the play clock all the way down to 3. Wanted to throw the home run ball, slings this one down to the sideline. It's incomplete for Judy. It's 3rd down. Let's go back to Dari in the studio.
Yeah, you got it, TZ. Georgia fans can breathe a little easier now here. Brian Herring in from 2 yards out. 14-7 Dogs over Murray State.
There you go. Just a little deep breath there. If you're a Bulldogs fan, 21-7 now. UGA on top. Didn't play their best in the second half against Vandy last week. How does Alabama look as they get near the goal line? We've seen Ali Cahoe, defensive player, come in as they get inside the 5. Won't have to worry about that this time. Just a pitch and catch with Ruggs for his second touchdown.
Alabama doesn't need any help. Confusion in the coverage. Ruggs breaks free inside. He could have hit Miller Forstall, his tight end, as well out in the flat. Would have walked in. It was dealer's choice that time for Tua Tagovailoa. A couple of protection changes at the line of scrimmage. They've done a good job relatively on that drive, giving their quarterback time to deliver strikes.
Ruggs and Judy are changing the all-time touchdown marks for receivers today. We're going to have to update that board for you, as Judy's got 2 and Ruggs has 1 receiving and 1 running.
Tagovailoa working those eyes, sees the defense, knows where he wants to go, fires one into Ruggs, 6 points.
Long way to go to get to Amari Cooper's 31 touchdowns, but Jerry Jeudy with 2 today is tied Calvin Ridley for second, and Henry Ruggs is tied for 4th with the Snakes' favorite target, Dennis Homan.
Former first-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys, Dennis Homan. Played in the Super Bowl 5. That's good company for Jeudy and Ruggs.
How about
I had no idea.
Credit to Homan, too, for all those touchdown catches, because the other guys have all played in the last 5 years.
That's right. We were changing the game back then here at Bama.
Dari remembers those days. Let's go back to the studio for an update.
Oh, you say the Snake. I don't know if you're talking Stabler or Plummer, TZ. I'm a little confused, but let's go Georgia Murray State. Racers get the ball right after the Georgia touchdown. Ball is stripped, knocked loose. J.R. Reed picks it up and recovers, and it's all dogs now between the hedges, guys.
Always Stabler in T-Town, my friend.
Yeah, there's one Snake.
Plummer's certainly the man out in the desert. Jake Plummer just kind of fell off the earth, didn't he?
No, I think he's still on the planet.
Is he still somewhere? I've lost track of it. As Christian Gibson past the 25-yard line for a few. Second down. All these fresh faces for the Crimson Tide on defense with Christian Harris and Shane Lee at linebackers. You see Shane there, and DJ Dale now playing nose guard. Just the second game of their careers. Some of them pressed into action due to injury and dismissal, as Huntley is ridden out of bounds by Lee just past the 30-yard line. Just over a week ago, they thought Dylan Moses would be the anchor of this defense. So unfortunate, this injury that'll sideline Dylan for the entire season. Combine that with Joshua McMillan and the dismissal of Ayabi Anoma. Alabama's a little thin with depth in the middle.
Yeah, McMillan goes down at inside linebacker, a senior. The new Dylan Moses could probably take up the slack. That's until he blew out his knee. When we talked to Coach Saban, when's the last time you had 3 true freshmen down the middle of your defense? He couldn't think of a time. And they've got true freshmen that can play early.
35, Alabama was offsides here. It's a free play for Atkins. It looked like a defensive back came across before the ball was snapped.
Offside, defense number 7. That penalty will be declined. Result of the play.
Trayvon Diggs here, Stench, at the bottom of your screen.
I see him, right? You think he was going to try to jam him? He couldn't wait. Ready to throw a punch almost right before that snap. Trayvon Diggs, we visited with him yesterday. Stephon Diggs, little brother, a hamstring issue for the Minnesota Vikings. May or may not be able to play in the opener. They talk every day, Trayvon said.
Catch is made by O.J. Clark. It's the first down up to the 50-yard line. Alyssa, how are those true freshmen looking so far in their Bryant-Denny Stadium debut?
Yeah, guys, you were talking about having 3 freshmen just right in the middle of that defense there. Nose guard DJ Dale, and then, of course, Shane Lee. One thing that I think Alabama fans could take solace in is a lot of people would be very nervous to have 3 freshmen starting right in the middle of your defense. Pete Golding said those guys are in his office ready to go over things after practice before he's even gotten out of the shower. Terrell Lewis said they were over at his house the night before the Duke game to go through signals, make sure they were right. So these guys ready to come in and get it done early for this Bama defense.
Yeah, those guys, you think Shane Lee and Terrell Lewis, the same high school. There's Pete Golding. What a ballistic rise in his career. 2 years ago, coordinating the defense at UT San Antonio.
throw in stride, catch made just near the 35-yard line by Tevis Abraham, and that's another first down for the Aggies. Sophomore from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with that catch, and the connection that Golding is making with these young guys has been impressive. We haven't seen a lot of Christian Harris today because Alabama's almost exclusively been in a dime package, just one linebacker on the field. It's a tackle made there by Terrell Lewis, who's almost always on your screen.
Wins inside again. Watch him stem right now. You got an inside run. You got to deny that inside move, and Terrell Lewis, he's got a full bag of tricks. That 24 is sneaky. It makes it look like he's smaller than he is. That is a big man.
Atkins, one-on-one, incomplete. Shaheem Carter had the best chance at that ball. Senior defensive back from Kentwood, Louisiana.
The coaches talked about it. How do they get those in-phase plays when you're a defensive back at Alabama and you're not always in position versus your wide receivers, Pete Golding and the Trayvon Diggs both mentioned. It's something that they work on. There's a period where they work on it just so their DBs know what it feels like. That time, Shaheem Carter with an opportunity to turn it over. Didn't come up with the catch.
On 3rd and 12, lofts one, picked off. Patrick Surtain. Just like his father, one of the more heralded defensive backs coming out of high school, lived up to the billing last year and is off to a hot start in 2019. Tide get the football back here in the second quarter. History of SEC football is chronicled in our 8-part documentary, Saturdays in the South. Tuesday at 9 Eastern, Episode 2 will take you from the Great Depression through World War II and into the 1950s. Saturday in the South, only seen on SEC Network and the ESPN app. National champions in 1930, Wallace Wade, 34 and 41, Frank Thomas. 34 team had Don Hudson and that man that's got a statue outside, Paul William Bear Bryant. Excited to watch that. First one was fantastic. How about the history of Southern football and the Sewanee Tigers?
Yeah, the Purple Tigers.
Winning 5 games in 6 different days in 1899. They did a great job chronicling that.
That's some aggressive scheduling. That would definitely warrant a playoff consideration at the end of that season.
Can you imagine? 2nd and 7, Tua Tagovailoa, easy throw to Jalen Waddle, and he gets past the secondary up near midfield.
Now, I don't want to play favorites with the wide receivers here at Alabama, so don't let them know that I said this, but Jalen Waddle, I enjoy.
Auto Owners Insurance halftime report coming up in just a moment. You'll get more on this game as Trevor Lawrence finds the end zone. They've just gone into the half at Clemson. Tigers up 17-3 on A&M, Dory Doring and Chiswick. Also show you Georgia, slow start. They're just fine now. Plenty of SEC football to update you on. Bama rolling, never an issue, right?
There's that explosiveness we were looking for.
400 yards at the half, you think?
See you at half, guys.
Chiz and CD working out of the same closet, I see.
Yeah, see that? I don't know.
Kick out of bounds.
They both worked out a lot.
Receivers have elected to put the ball in play at the 35-yard line. First down.
Tua's scrambling a little bit, and we got some issues at guard. Left guard and right guard are going to end up getting edged by the rushers of New Mexico State. Evan Neal, a true freshman, watch him. Gets his eyes stuck inside for too long. Bodies around Tua's feet. He decides to tuck and run. Not a bad option for the Crimson Tide offense.
25-yard touchdown run. His first rushing touchdown of the season. He's got 8 now in his career. Of course, everybody remembers that 44-yard scamper in Baton Rouge on one knee, I might add. He's got 2 of those now that are working properly. Even more dangerous. There's Raekwon Davis. Kind of comes and goes at times, but so far, so good for Raekwon through 2 games this season.
definition of a space eater. Big body, long, 6'7", 310, occupies blockers, doesn't always shed blocks as quickly as some of his other defensive line mates, but he gobbles up space.
Sophomore year. He about made the tackle to make that McKinney about made the tackle twice there to be third down. Coming up at halftime, you can watch the live performance of the $1 Million Band on SEC Network Plus. Start streaming now on the ESPN app. Get those guys some fans.
Man, you think those feathers help the heat escape their bodies faster or something? Like it conducts the heat upward?
I know heat rises. I have no idea what feathers do to the heat as it rises.
It's probably not even real feathers.
On a 3rd and 8, Adkins. Pocket collapses, and so does he. That's LeBrian Ray with the sack. It's 4th down.
Just nowhere to go with the football. You can only imagine throwing into a secondary, and this is a really good one. Where are you going? Where are you going to go with this ball right here if you're Josh Adkins? There's nowhere to go with this football. You look downfield, it's just a matter of time. Your protection's not going to hold up long anyway. And LeBrian Ray, taking advantage of the coverage downfield, pad his stats for this contest.
Feisler. This is fielded by Waddle, who is standing about 15 yards closer this time. Desperately wanted a shot. Now he's going to go to the other sideline. Now watch out. He's got a cavalry in front of him. And he'll run out of bounds just outside the 30-yard lines. He ran, 60, 70 yards to pick up about 20.
Yeah, I mean, the width of the field's what? Just north of 50 yards. Nobody went close to 100 yards right there. And watch where he catches this, right? So he's on the numbers. So he's going to run all the way to the other numbers. So, I'm going to give him 50 yards right there. Spin. Let's run another 50 yards at least. That's 100 yards. That's a gasser. He ran a gasser.
Doesn't look like he's out of gas, though.
Yeah, he doesn't even have oxygen on over there. That was like a warm-up.
Tua. It's incomplete to Judy. 2nd down.
Judy covering up that throw. Looked like that could have been a backwards pass. It been a live ball. We saw earlier, Ruggs ended up being a backwards pass on the touchdown run, quote unquote. First offensive play, that ended up being just barely a forward pass and a completion for no gain.
Ruggs still the rushing leader in the game. 75 yards on that one carry. Tua, home run ball again. Too far for Terrell Shavers, sophomore from Louisville, Texas.
Not sure about that read by Tua. Maybe got a little bit greedy. Mexico State had a midfield safety ready to play that thing underneath. Ended up double coverage there in the end zone. They're taking a shot downfield. I hadn't seen a ton of those. Not a lot of shot plays. We asked some of the players, even Coach Sark, going to be calling those shots, those downfield shots. They said that they were called. The defense took it away from them versus Duke.
This one at the line of scrimmage. Just let Judy create. And he gets upended at the 30-yard line by Ray Buford. Nice open field tackle. It's 4th down.
What was it? When we talk about these receivers turning into running backs, Ray Buford, great job coming up, making a tackle versus a receiver that is incredibly difficult to get on the ground. That's Judy. He went with he tried to do the dead leg right there, just kind of dead leg him a little bit right there at the edge.
So it sets up a 4th down, and Will Reichard, who was 0 for 2 last week, he hit the right upright from 49 and the left upright from 48. Coach Saban is big on this guy. He's got a cannon for a leg, and from 47, he makes his first field goal as a member of the Crimson Tide.
He was just sighting in his scope last week. Well, you hit the left one, you hit the right one, okay. I got it good and dialed in. Maybe I overcorrected. He drills this one. This is you at the driving range, isn't it, buddy?
It is. I just don't know where it's going to end up.
I don't know why you use your foot in golf. It's so strange.
Coach Saban was the first guy to pat him on the butt last week when he came off the field. He said, I just love how much distance this guy is getting on his kicks. He hit both uprights. It's not the worst thing in the world. If you're way off, it's one thing. Alabama's obviously struggled in the kicking game for years, but they think they have found their answer with this true freshman from Hoover, Alabama, who's also kicking, and he punted last week too. Skylar DeLong is doing that today. They're asking him to do a plethora of things in his first year in college. Goes over Huntley. Now, Coach Saban got all fired up after an interception last week, and it drew a personal foul on the Alabama bench, and then one on him for jawing with the officials. And he said Mrs. Terry, I should say, got on him after that.
Did you have to do any extra running this week because you got a 15-minute penalty today?
Miss Terry made me run on a treadmill for 20 minutes. The leadership group had a meeting and they wanted to implement some disciplinary action, but it kind of got overruled.
What about the old veto stamp, huh?
First and 10 run goes to Gibson for a couple. You know, I like what he said, though, after the game. He was upset because he said, let the kids celebrate a little bit. They weren't jawing at Duke. They were celebrating with each other. But he did say he got a little too worked up, and he says it's the first time in a long time that he's drawn a personal foul.
I just like that. So he overrules the leadership group, but didn't even try to overrule Miss Terry,
no,
right?
Get on the treadmill.
Smart
Yes,
move.
ma'am.
It's a veteran move right there. 20 minutes is a long time. I wonder how far he went 20 minutes on the treadmill.
I'm going to say 7 miles an hour, maybe the average speed, somewhere in there.
On that new hip.
Yeah, that's right. So this is going to talk to him in just a second. I thought that might be the last play of the first half, but the clock has stopped momentarily, and now we'll wind it back up. Crimson Tide scoring at will in the first half on the first play. As Henry Ruggs went 75 yards, and that guy, Jerry Jeudy, already with 2 touchdowns. As the Tide is rolling here in T-Town in the home opener.
An impressive half a play.
Mexico State gets the football first. We saw Tua's numbers in the first half with those 3 touchdown passes and 1 rushing. Might see some Mac Jones, you would think, in the second half, and who knows, maybe even Talia Tagovailoa came in the fourth quarter. Doug Martin's New Mexico State Aggies down 38-zip at the half and trying for the first touchdown here in the third quarter. Atkins 11 of 17 passing for 60 yards. Did throw the interception to Patrick Surtain in that first half. Handoff goes to Huntley, and he's ahead for a couple. Let's go down to Alyssa.
Yeah, guys, I caught up with head coach Doug Martin coming out of halftime, and he said he told his offense, hey, we got to cut down on the turnovers. He wasn't happy with the turnovers in the first half. He told his defense, hey, we need to force some turnovers. Not unhappy with how his guys are playing, but saying if they want to have a chance, the defense has really got to get in there.
It's in his 7th season. Went to a bowl game in 2017, first time New Mexico State had played and won in 57 years. They won, too, beat Utah State in the Arizona Bowl 2 years ago. But being an independent program is so difficult as you have to travel all over the country and play some of the best teams. Huntley staying on his feet, still not tackled, past the 35-yard line. Speaking of that travel stench, They're all over the grid. Look at that trip to Wazoo, then to Alabama. Going to play Liberty twice, by the way. They have a home and home with Liberty this year.
I wonder if that'll involve a dental chair.
First and 10. And that is incomplete. Now, they're funding their entire athletic department by playing games like this against Crimson Tide and then playing Ole Miss later this year, as they've played a couple of SEC schools on almost an annual basis. Didn't play one last year, but have two this year and have one on the schedule. As you see, each of the next 3 seasons will be back here in Tuscaloosa in 2021.
Yeah, payday games. And as you mentioned, you look at it concentrated, across most of the southeastern portion of the United States. I'm talking with Doug Martin. He was saying, we need to play games. Dangerous, especially when you've got a defender like Shaheem Carter bearing down on you. But we mentioned not being part of the conference. They don't have to share with other members of the conference, quote unquote, but they do have to share the funding across the athletic department. And they would love if they could retain the revenues that they obtained from one of these quote unquote payday games just for that football program. Haven't been able to accomplish that just yet.
We saw that on the screen, the first ever meeting. It's kind of remarkable that New Mexico State, then New Mexico A&M, started in 1894. Alabama started playing football in 1892. Yet the teams have never met until today. 3rd and 13. Good throw, but catch is not made by Tony Nicholson, as Surtain might have got a hand in there.
Yeah, well defended by Surtain. You're right. You would have thought by now that these two programs would have met, especially given the circumstances that we just described financially. Not on the slate coming up either. When you look at spreading it around the SEC, almost taking a tour.
4th down, Peyton Theisler will punt. Now Alabama has made an adjustment with Theisler's short punts, with Waddle as the up return man and Trayvon Diggs back deep. This is Diggs waiting for a fair catch, but somebody got in his way, and a flag is thrown. So while this is marked down near the 12-yard line, it's going to be a flag after what was a 55-yard punt.
It's been a little bit of an adventure on punts today. An illegal substitution, a block in the back, bringing back a touchdown, and now another flag here.
Interference with the opportunity to catch a kick. Kicking team number 20. 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul.
And here comes Tua in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see him long. Go into halftime, push the fluids a little bit, see his numbers. Very efficient. And this is, this is what he does. He doesn't play outside the 3rd quarter, but he's got to maintain the trend of actually playing into the 3rd quarter.
Well, maybe part of the reason why is what Coach Saban told Alyssa that just before he went in the tunnel, is he wants to see a little more improvement from his first-team offense, particularly that offensive line featuring 3 new starters. Trying to figure out who his best center is, too. Brian Robinson breaks some tackles initially and is ahead for maybe a yard.
New Mexico State with a rundown stunt. So they just got an end and a tackle exchanging. Slowed things down at the point of attack. Clearly trying to run to the right side of the offensive front. Robinson gets stacked up, tries to redirect. Only picked up a couple of yards.
Robinson just past the 50-yard line. How would you assess the offensive line play so far today?
Yeah, it's been up and down. I'm not sure that we're seeing what this offensive line is going to ultimately look like. I think we won't see that really until the Ole Miss contest when Deontay Brown comes back. We'll assume, I think, what I would guess, that right guard position. We'll have to watch and see how Landon Dickerson does, who, as you mentioned, didn't get to Tuscaloosa until August, a grad transfer from FSU. As he found a home at center, and then Evan Neal, who was a highly touted 5-star tackle, who's gotten both starts at left guard. And maybe that's what we end up seeing at Ole Miss. But I don't think we've got the personnel available on the offensive line just yet.
Devontae Smith short of the first down, as you see there, about half a yard. Tide offense staying on the field. Tua under center is just going to plow forward. An easy first down for the Crimson Tide, following those man-eaters.
You know, last week, and Coach Saban mentioned this, they had a 2nd and 1 right before the end of the first half. And the back just doesn't see the hole. It wasn't even a hole. Didn't even ride the wave. It was a surge. And then they had a 3rd and 1, and they had bad blocking on the backside, and they get blown up. They ended up having to punt it away and gave up a field goal. You want to see those situational blocking, the rundowns. You want those reps. So you saw it there. You get a quick snap on a quarterback sneak. Smart, makes sense. Maybe hold your breath a little bit because it's your QB running into traffic. But that was a great surge. But again, you know, these guys up front, we're not seeing, I think, what we'll ultimately get from the Alabama offensive front. The only thing that they're forfeiting is game reps together. Until Deontay Brown gets back, if in fact he comes back at right guard, that chemistry is hard to develop just in practice.
Second and 7, Robinson cuts it inside, and he's inside the 30-yard line. And how difficult is that to get chemistry with these guys? Evan Neal, if in fact he plays left guard, and Brown after the Ole Miss game is your right guard, and Dickerson's your center. Takes a few weeks.
It does, and you have to have a good feel for how the guy next to you is going to play. And when you've got new faces in new places, that's hard to get established.
It's a first down run for Robinson with Mac Jones warming that right arm up on the bench.
Yeah, it makes sense. Get him in there eventually. But, you know, like right now, Jedrick Wills, only guy who's playing in the same position he was a season ago. Otherwise, nobody's played next to each other. And right now you can see Alabama kind of getting the run game going, 195 yards. Now let's remember 75 of that was to Henry Ruggs on what was a backwards pass.
Over 20 for 2 on the touchdown run. And it's Robinson. It'll be 1st and goal, Bama. Inside the 10 at the 8.
Good patience by Brian Robinson. Good job by the front, covering up and getting some movement. So you got Alex Leatherwood at left tackle playing next to a true freshman. They've never done that before. And the true freshman's playing next to a grad transfer in Landon Dickerson, who's playing next to Matt Womack, who's usually in there as an extra tight end and spent time at right tackle.
Najee Harris back in after Robinson has gone the whole way on this drive. Inside handoff, Najee breaking a tackle and scoring. Simple inside read, pay dirt.
Harris turning on the Jets. And he had to outrun some penetration. Watch this on the backside. This is going to try to be a cutoff block by Evan Neal. He doesn't get his hat across. So you see that? It makes Najee Harris. He has to bubble his run just a little bit. Those are the little things that you have to clean up. Versus New Mexico State, you can get away with it. You're faster than everyone on the field probably.
Reichert has been perfect kicking extra points and field goals today. And it's Najee Harris escaping the tackler in the backfield. It's 45-0.
Last week, it was a tough week for some teams in the SEC. On Thinking Out Loud, last Monday, we had grief counselors there to help you through your pain. Who knows what we'll have this Monday? Join me, Greg McElroy, and Marcus Spears on SEC Network Monday at 7 o'clock. Like I said, you'll never know what you're going to get, but I can guarantee it'll be fun.
Wow, you're on the screen now. How about that?
And appropriately in front and overlaying those two dudes.
You can't even really see McElroy and Spears back there. I like that. Is fantastic.
I can't see it, so this is very exciting for me right now.
Really
I don't know what it looks like, but I can't wait to watch the replay.
Basically, we just had, as you saw last week, the picture of McElroy and Spears. Now we have inserted you blocking the view of those two.
Wow. I give y'all credit for that because you guys called it out last week when we were at Kentucky, so I appreciate you guys playing blockers for me there.
And Alyssa is saying she is a South Carolina Gamecock alum, so she was sitting on the couch last week after the loss to the Tar Heels.
Yes.
Gamecocks.
It was a tough time, but thankfully my mediocre grief counselors in Greg and Marcus sort of talked me through it, but not really because they should not quit their day jobs for sure.
Nice end-around run for Drew Dan there. Gamecocks win your alma mater 72-10 today against Charleston Southern. Ryan Walensky now the quarterback for the Gamecocks through two touchdown passes. And you would certainly think, Stinch, he's your starter next week against the Crimson Tide.
Especially given that injury to Jake Bentley. A Lis Frank fracture in his foot. Those things are nasty, take a while. And Walensky acquitting himself well in his first start. An amazing story in and around him, not only as a player, but his family. As you see the type of day that he had, 24-30, that's really efficient. Look at the numbers that he put up and was a highly regarded recruit as a pocket passer.
Dropped there by Warner, and it is second down. It's been through a lot, obviously, with what happened with his older brother Tyler at Washington State, taking his own life a few years back. And Ryan wanted to go and have his own experience across the country and into SEC territory, and played so well in the home opener. Nick Saban's never won in Columbia. Some Tide fans remember what happened there in 2010. Nice pitch and catch across the middle of the field, and breaking free is Tony Nicholson, and he's inside the 5-yard line as Diggs prevents a touchdown. To pick up a 44 yards. Took out an official too.
Yeah, got an assist for the umpire. Knocked his glasses off in his hat. Watch this. Run right at you. Boom. Great job, run after the catch. Tony Nicholson doing a great job getting it down in the red zone. You see at the end, and that's Trayvon Diggs. And he's probably cramping up. You see him working on that left calf. It's hot out here. First time, I'm actually surprised. This is the first instance we've seen of this type of a cramping, given how hot it is.
Let's go back to the studio with Matt Austin, our SEC rules expert. And Matt, how about when an umpire gets taken out like this in the middle of a play?
Well, now you know exactly why I'm not an umpire. He has nowhere to go. The play runs right at him. There's nothing he can do. It's unfortunate, but these plays happen, and you just hope that nobody gets seriously injured.
Wally Huff, I know that you've worked with through the years. Seems like he's okay. It's Josh
Yeah, Wally's
Jobe.
a tough one. He's going to bounce back up, I guarantee it. And he got hurt. He got hit last year and was bleeding and still got up and finished the game. So he's a tough one.
Josh Jobe running into Wally there, and Trayvon being carried off the field. His mom Stephanie's here today watching him play. They're hoping that Stefan can play for the Vikings tomorrow with that hamstring injury. You're going to watch it together. All right, now the Crimson Tide defense will try to protect their own goal line. And on the handoff, it's Gibson, and he'll fight ahead to the 4. It'll be second down from there. You see Raekwon Davis in there on the play.
And Christian Harris in there as well. We've talked about these young linebackers. Number 8 was a safety, a defensive back. Did a great job on that last play. There's Shane Lee right here in the middle. See him redirecting.
Quarterback keeper right at Lee and Harris, and they say, no, sir. It'll be 3rd and goal. You just said it. Harris was a defensive back. I mean, look at this guy. He was 6'2", 240 from Baton Rouge, and he's playing defensive back in high school.
You think you'd want to catch it over the middle with him playing safety? I would not. Return kicks, played a little receiver. What an athlete. Pressed into service, though, as we've mentioned, due to those injuries. Josh McMillan, a senior, Dylan Moses out. Shane Lee and Christian Harris taking up the slack.
In an empty backfield, Atkins surveys the whole field, throws it out to Huntley, makes a man miss, and into the end zone he goes. Touchdown Aggies.
You see Tony Nicholson there congratulating Jason Huntley. It was his effort. He did a great job. We saw an umpire going down to set up this red zone possession. And let's see if Huntley gets in. Looks to me, it's hard. You're a little bit obscured there. It looked to me like the ball would have broken the front edge of the goal line before his knee touched down. Rule the score on the field.
Penetrates any part of that goal line, it's a touchdown. It's been confirmed, and Dylan Brown's extra point is good. The Aggies are on the board with 5:59 to go in the third quarter.
Well, we talked about Jason Huntley at the top. One of the best return men in the country. Get the ball to him in space. And he's finally able to get the Aggies on the board. But the Tide are up 45-7.
Tua's day is complete. 3 touchdown passes and a touchdown run. Mac Jones bobbing his head, getting ready to play quarterback for the Crimson Tide, the redshirt sophomore from Jacksonville, Florida. So Alabama has a big 45-7 lead over the Aggies. Tua has not played the fourth quarter in the regular season since November the 16th last year. It's a kick that is going to be returned by Ruggs at the 10. And that is up to the 30-yard line. Let's go back to the studio in Darinoka.
Yeah, guys, it's getting a little worse right now for Texas A&M. Down 17-3. Clemson puts together an 8-play drive for 83 yards. It results in a Lynn J. Dixon touchdown, and it's 24-3 Tigers, closing minutes of the third quarter now.
Yeah, well, so what a difference a year makes, right? You think A&M comes in there and give Kellen Mond 430 passing yards a season ago as you see Mac Jones for the first time here today for Alabama.
Mac throwing behind Jerry Jeudy. It's incomplete. Just to clarify here, Tua Tagovailoa has not played in the fourth quarter in 11 of his 16 fourth quarter starts. So most of the time you don't see Tua because the Crimson Tide has such a big lead.
And you know, something that offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian kind of alluded to, where he said, I liked in some ways that there was adversity versus Duke in that first quarter, scoreless first quarter. We want to see him be able to overcome that adversity. We were able to do that.
2nd and 10. It's this one in stride to Waddle. And it's a first down into New Mexico State territory. Alyssa, tell us a little more about this fiery sophomore quarterback.
Yeah, guys, I actually got to watch Mac Jones play a lot of high school football in Jacksonville. I worked there for several years. He went to the Bowls school and he led them to a couple of state championships. He was one of those players in the Jacksonville area that you just knew if he was taking the field for Bowls that Friday night, they were going to do something big. He was always lighting up the scoreboard. He was a really fun player to watch, and when he committed to Alabama, everyone in the area extremely excited to see what he would be able to do for the Crimson Tide. Now sitting behind, of course, Tua Tagovailoa.
As he straight ahead gets up near the 40-yard line, and Coach Saban said he's got an incredible understanding of the offense and has been impressed by his talent. You got the impression that Mac will have a real shot next year to be the starting quarterback.
Well, he's certainly been around enough, and you've got to have some level of consistency. Now, I would like to think that the coaching staff won't turn over quite as much as it has in previous years, certainly the previous 2 seasons. At the coordinator spot, you want that consistency at quarterback.
Avoiding the sack there, Xander Yarborough was in the backfield, almost got Jones before he got rid of the football.
When you consider the wealth of talent that's around Mac Jones, and we've talked about some of the new faces, some young guys contributing. Look at that, he's got to work on that visor, man. Spray some Windex on that sucker. You're going to be able to see where you're throwing it.
And 3 with Jeudy in motion. The handoff goes to Harris. He moves the chains inside the 35-yard line. We've been talking about all these fresh faces, primarily on the field. How about on the sideline and up in the press box? You got 7 new coaches here in Tuscaloosa this year, and Pete Golding has moved from the inside linebackers coach to the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, some guys that have been familiar with this program before. Sal Sunseri in his second tour of duty here, same as Steve Sarkisian, who came from the Atlanta Falcons, along with Kyle Flood, the new offensive line coach. So there's familiarity amongst those coaches.
Devontae Smith, look at him changing direction there, and it's first down inside the 20 down to the 19. It's a pickup of 14 yards. Alabama offensive staff, you see there on the sideline with Steve Sarkisian as the offensive coordinator, did call the one game, the national championship at the end of the 2016 season, January of 2017, and a bunch more up there. Kyle Flood, the O-line coach. Charles Huff now coaching the running backs after Burns did such an amazing job. And the wide receiver coach has got to be smiling as Holman Wiggins watches Jerry Jeudy plow in for another touchdown.
Keep this up. We're going to have to do a QBR rating for Mac Jones. Jerry Jeudy on the field, Jerry Jeudy off the field. Touchdown. That's his favorite receiver too.
So now he goes ahead of Calvin Ridley for second alone in touchdown receptions. And we're just into the second game of Jerry's sophomore season. 20 in his career. As Reichert makes it 52-7.
Mac Jones, RPO action, stabs one in there to Jerry Jeudy, dances around a little bit just to make it interesting. And he's in the end zone again. 52 for the Tide.
Mac Jones throws his second career touchdown pass. It's the third for Jerry Jeudy today, and you see he's climbed alone to second all time in most touchdown receptions. Henry Ruggs only a couple behind with 4, tied for fourth now. First time Jerry Jeudy's ever had a 3-touchdown game. This on the heels of 10 catches last week against the Duke Blue Devils. Coming up tonight at 7:30 Eastern, it's our Saturday night matchup as Arkansas travels to Oxford to take on Ole Miss. Then an SEC Network alternate channel has Eastern Michigan versus Kentucky. Find the alternate channel, go to secnetwork.com. Razorbacks beat Portland State last week. Rebels lost to Memphis in the Liberty Bowl 15-10. Ole Miss did overcome a 17-point deficit to win that game in Little Rock last year. Who you liking that one tonight, Rebels or Hogs?
Ooh, man. I can't say that I've chewed on that one very much. I'm going to go with the Hogs. Man, Rakeem Boyd, pretty special player. Take nothing away from Scotty Phillips.
What about Texas LSU?
I like LSU. You know, when you look at what LSU's doing offensively, sure, it's looking better. There's no doubt about it. Opening things up, Joe Brady coming over from the Saints. A lot's been made of that. Well, we saw it actually manifested on the field in week 1. That's encouraging. I think that they can push on it. I think that they can build on it. Oh,
Davion Mitchell coughs up the football, and it's recovered by the Crimson Tide as Josh Jobe has it. That ball was punched out.
and it's that kind of thing is why I like LSU versus Texas. It's the 96th turnover forced by the Bama defense since 2015. 96 of them. 3 today.
It's big Phil Mathis coming in there to punch it out. I know Patrick Surtain was in there too.
How about that for a cover down from the big man? Cover down. Oh man, who do you give it to? Is it Mathis or Surtain?
Looked like Mathis's left hand got
He
there
was the
before
reason.
Surtain's
Yeah.
punch.
Just for the effort.
Can you
gotta give
share
it
a
to him.
forced fumble? Mac Jones, incomplete.
I don't know.
Second down.
Can you have a completion on a run? The answer is yes.
Jaleel Billingsley was the intended receiver there, a backup tight end for the Crimson Tide. Ford, who started the Duke game last week, is in there at tailback. Takes the handoff.
Let's go back. Watch this hustle play. Here's Mathis right here. He's playing defensive tackle, defensive end right there, lined up over the offensive tackle. He gets in his pass rush. Watch this cover down. We've seen some great hustle plays this year. That's a pretty darn good one. It's downfield. Sertan, he lines up out there. He didn't have that far to run. Big Phil Mathis get that big body moving out in space to force that fumble.
More true freshmen on the field for Alabama. Pierce Quick, Darian Dalcourt on the offensive line, giving time for Jones, but Jones almost had that picked off by Lomax.
Jones took a shot right after he delivered that ball on a rope. Ended up receiver going down. Tyrell Shavers, he got tangled up a little bit, went to the ground. It's always dangerous, especially on those slants. Receiver goes down. That ball's still coming in there. There's a chance for a DB to make the play.
Well, we know Reichard's got plenty of leg after watching his attempts so far this season. This from 50, actually officially from 49 yards. And this one is straight through. He has found his stride now. Boy, look at the leg on Reichard. The freshman from Hoover makes it 55-7.
Dorinoka in studio. Don't forget, of course, a little over an hour from now over on ABC, you got LSU walking into Austin, Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium. Never seen a top 10 versus top 10 battle. Not in the last 11 seasons, but they get it tonight. Texas and LSU, guys.
We found Dare to Coach O to be a big game coach. Some big wins he had last year. Auburn against Georgia. Joe Burrow's a big game player too. Last week, 23 for 27, 5 touchdowns. Found 9 different receivers in that whitewashing of Georgia Southern. Tied a school record for single game touchdown passes with 5. It was Zach Mettenberger. And he was subbed out after the first LSU possession in the first half. LSU won 55-3, scoring 21 points in the first quarter. They did not do that in any quarter last year. Joe Brady helping call those plays now on offense for LSU. How about the performance Burrow put together last week? And against Sam Ellinger in the running game for Texas tonight.
Yeah, and they do a great job. You know, Ellinger, a big contributor in that running game, not scared to scramble. He's a physical runner, can finish those runs, pick up hard-earned yards. But I like the fact that both those quarterbacks do an excellent job of protecting the football. And in this game tonight, I think that's going to be the difference. And I think that's the difference from the LSU secondary's perspective. Takeaways.
Flag comes in as Chris Allen came around the edge. Sophomore from Baton Rouge, as Coach Saban has piled up the talent from Louisiana on this roster.
There's a lot of great
Illegal
players.
shift, offense, number 16 and number 9 were moving at the same time and did not get reset for a full second. That penalty's declined. Second down.
So Chris Allen with that sack, which will count. It's a loss of 5, and now it'll be third down. New Mexico State having to get up to the 35-yard line. Atkins lofts one up, but way too far in front of Warner. It's fourth down. So New Mexico State goes back to the bench against one of the best teams in college football, a program that has reset the standard with all programs, with those 5 national championships that Coach Saban has won in now his 13th season. He's the head coach here at Alabama, the dean of SEC coaches. So running again to Waddle. He's going to have a chance at this at the 35-yard line. So difficult to bring this guy to the ground. There's legs never stop moving. And he's out of bounds near the 41-yard line. So who are the teams in the SEC this season that can contend with the Tide? We each have our own list. We have the Dogs at the top there. You think the Aggies are right there in the mix. Now, this was made before the Clemson game today.
You know, timing is everything. I would say, though, that, you know, you look at A&M, when they pick them up, middle of the season, they get a bye week. Maybe they show up. Look, last year, they were able to play over their head. Georgia looks to be like they're going to be able to dispatch the Murray State Racers today. And, of course, you know, look at Alyssa. Well, I like those picks, Alyssa. That makes a lot of sense. Just a reshuffling of what I was thinking.
You know, everyone in the production meeting can be witness that I did not know your list before I was asked for mine, Stinch, but I'm kind of with you. I think A&M could give Alabama a run for their money. You know, I did not think that this Clemson matchup would be exactly how it went down, but I look at LSU as one of those teams too, looking at Joe Burrow and then the defensive side of that ball, specifically LSU's secondary. I think they're one of the more complete teams in the SEC, but I would think if any year could be the year, this might be it for Georgia. This might finally be the year that Georgia could get a win over Bama.
Again, those are the other teams other than Alabama that can contend. There's a personal foul call, and Keelan Robinson takes the handoff, and he's got daylight. See ya. 74 yards for the true freshman from D.C.
Hope he stretched before he got in the game. Get out there, he hadn't played a whole lot. Nice and hot out here. Thankfully the shade's kind of crawled across the field, so everybody's in the shade now, at least on the field. Keelan Robinson showing the Jets. Hit that hole, just bang your head on the goalpost.
2 carries last week for 5 yards, and he comes into the game, 1 play, 74 yards to the house.
The picture of efficiency. I mean, he got hit more on the sideline in celebration than he does on this run. Watch him. And I like this hole. Sticks that right foot in the ground. Daylight. Nice blocking up front. It's been a long game in New Mexico State. There have been some quick scores. They've been on the field a lot. Defense getting tired, and Keelan Robinson coming in there and fresh legging them. See over there celebrating with former Tennessee head coach Butch Jones on the sideline. Keelan Robinson, just another among a talented stable of backs. Somewhat unproven. Brian Robinson's got some carries here today. Ran physically. Najee Harris, of course, a known commodity. Keelan Robinson, a guy that's getting touches early in the season.
512 yards versus Duke last week. 595 yards today. We're not even at the end of the third quarter, and 312 of that has come on the ground. 2 long runs, 75-yard run for Ruggs and a 74-yard run for Robinson. This is Joe Bulovas, who was the kicker last year, who's kicking off for the Tide. New Mexico State starts at the 25-yard line. So Keelan Robinson enjoying Alabama's 62-7 lead here over the Aggies near the end of the third quarter. Gibson is met at the line of scrimmage. The legendary Eli Gold, the voice of the Crimson Tide for over 30 years. Let's listen to his call on the radio as Robinson got free.
1st and 10 from the 25. Here's the handoff to Keelan Robinson. Big hole, turn on the afterburners. Does he have enough to go? 20 down the right side, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Keelan Robinson, 74 yards, a touchdown on his 3rd carry of the year. That is what that man brings to the table. When that afterburner kicked in, nobody was going to get him.
You can't teach speed, and that's it.
fourth quarter in Tuscaloosa for the home opener for the Crimson Tide. 62-7 lead over New Mexico State. Let's go back to the studio with Dari.
All right, guys, thank you much. Don't forget our next game coming up on SEC Network is a conference game in Oxford, Mississippi. Ben Hicks and the Razorbacks coming off the win against Portland State, taking on Ole Miss. Rebels got to find a little offense and try to slow down Raheem Boyd in the process. That's 7:30 Eastern, guys.
Ben Hicks, Nick Starkel, and saw Chad Morris have two options at the quarterback spot. That is a whistled as an incompletion as it was swung out to Navion Mitchell. It's now fourth down.
You saw where Ben Hicks was career passing leader at SMU. Harkens back to when Chad Morris was there running his offense. It ended up being more compelling than what I think was probably a more talented quarterback in Nick Starkel, a guy that had his season cut short a couple of years ago at Texas A&M due to injury, and then never was able to win that starting job back. Goes to Arkansas. Ended up going with Ben Hicks, the guy who knows Chad Morris's offensive system.
Slade Bolden gets a chance to return this punt. Chrysler with a good one. Goes over his head. Roll dead inside the 10-yard line. 64 yards for the punter for New Mexico State on a warm September Saturday in T-Town.
Don't forget, every Monday night at 7 o'clock right here on the SEC Network, Marcus Spears, Greg McElroy, and myself thinking out loud on every Monday night. We talk about the craziest things in college football, but of course we get you caught up on all the weekend's action. It is always a good time, and I'm sure this week we might talk a little bit about that punishment that Coach Saban had from Miss Terry for that unsportsmanlike last week. He had to run 20 minutes on the treadmill, and I'm starting to think, Taylor, that when Stinch is late to our meetings, we enforce that same penalty on him.
Nope.
20 minutes on the treadmill.
Yeah, that's cool. I got a veto stamp too, though. And by the way, I was early to several other meetings, and so that offsets the late meetings.
We asked our producer Tom Schofield, and he said that absolutely is incorrect. That if you show up 30 minutes early for one conference call, that does not make up for the tardiness in the others.
It's like a cell phone plan. It's rollover minutes. One counts towards the other. And I've got that in black and white. It's in the contract.
Stinch's gasser days are over. It looks like Jemias Williams is okay, the junior from Wilmington, North Carolina. New Hanover High School. Great Tar Heel State. Thinking about those people in Wilmington, too, as the Hurricane Dorian came through the coast where Jemias is from.
Yeah.
600 total yards now for Alabama. Keelan Robinson, who had that 74-yard touchdown run, plows ahead for a couple. In fact, people affected by Hurricane Dorian, your donation will support Red Cross preparation, response, and recovery efforts in the United States and the Bahamas. Go to www.redcross.org/ESPN or call 1-800-RED-CROSS to donate now. Give as much as you can, especially for those people down in the Bahamas. It's been a very difficult week. So Tide 7 of 12 on third down today. Fake to Robinson and throw it out there to Mechie, and Mechie's met in the backfield by Jonathan Hood. It's fourth down.
Good job by Hood, fighting off a block and making the open field tackle. Forced the punt. Mexico State out there still fighting, scratching, clawing.
Coach Saban will get ready for the SEC opener, the Gamecocks, next Saturday. Alabama has won 15 straight SEC road openers. That is when their first game of the conference slate is on the season. They've won 15 in a row. O.J. Clark with the fair catch. New Mexico State back on offense for the Gamecocks and the Tide next week. All the SEC flags outside Bryant-Denny Stadium, including South Carolina's. Alabama and South Carolina haven't played a lot recently. Played in 2009. Last time they played was 9 years ago. The Gamecocks had one of the biggest wins in program history, knocking off Alabama 35-21. Alshon Jeffrey and Stephen Garcia had the games of their life that day. Marcus Lattimore on that team as well as Matt Romero now in at quarterback. And New Mexico State running down the field. That's Josh Foley, the running back, with a big game for the Aggies. That's a 22-yard run, the backup tailback.
How about South Carolina's schedule this season? That's a real peach, huh? And you're talking about you just lost your starting quarterback. Had a great day today versus Charleston Southern with the freshman in there, Ryan Helinski. Looked really good. They reshuffled their offensive front. They got a lot to fix yet. A lot of ground to gain, though, given what they've got coming to visit next week with this bunch out of Tuscaloosa. They will definitely have their hands full.
And make no mistake, that game's personal to the fans because they've been hearing about it for 9 years from South Carolina fans. Say, hey, remember the last time we played you? And Alabama fans say, hey, remember all the national championships we've won since we played that game? They are tired of hearing all the Gamecock talk in the last 9 years. Saban will try to get his first win in Williams-Brice Stadium.
That's the only stadium he doesn't have a conference win in, correct?
That's right.
Like that. Well, they've expanded, new facilities. Very real chance. He's certainly going to get an opportunity to check that box, and there aren't many that are unchecked, given his 13 seasons here at Alabama, and has rewritten what the standard is in college football today. And we talked about the turnover, we talked about the young faces. They hemorrhage talent every year to the NFL. 10 NFL draft picks this past season, second only to the 2018 draft, where they had 12 guys taken. You just turn over your coordinators every year, and yet still field one of the best, if not the best team in all of college football year in and year out.
Eli Anderson gets up there almost a first down, 4th and short. How about that? I mean, that's just, well, in the last couple of years, 10 players drafted last year, Stench. They've had 29 in the first, 45 in the first 2 of those 87 draft picks in the Saban era.
It's amazing. And just to kind of put an exclamation point on that, how many guys they had drafted his first year? 0. 2007, he wasn't as if he inherited a full cover.
Dylan Brown from 43. And it's 62-10 as the Aggies cut the deficit to 52 here in the 4th quarter at Bryant-Denny Stadium. In the football office, Alabama pays tribute to all those drafted. Clinton Dix, part of that list. C.J. Mosley as well. P.J. Fluker. There's 3 of the 87 picks in the Saban era. And they have over 60 that are still on NFL rosters. Most of any program. Back to the studio. Let's get an update with Dari.
All right, guys, there are 6 SEC teams, or games, I should say, coming up. 7 teams to play since Arkansas and Ole Miss play one another. Bo Nix getting ready for game number 2 of his freshman season. Game number 1 ended well for him. Tulane-Auburn will be on ESPN2 later, guys.
I think that guy's going to be cheering for Tulane. What do you think?
I don't know. See, that outfit makes more sense given the temperature today. The other one, multiple layers and a hat, like a felt fedora. I don't know. That just.
Is that one of the turnover chains that he's got? He's got the old school logo too.
Turnover hat band.
Robinson has a 74-yard touchdown run in this game. Goes ahead. Am I crazy to think Tulane, who's an improved team the last couple of years, might give Auburn a game tonight?
You know, It's hot up here, buddy.
You're not buying.
I don't know, man. Look, and Auburn with the true freshman and Bo Nix. Let's be real. They did not play well in the first half. Oregon did everything they could to keep Auburn in that game, especially on the scoreboard. Fumble going in, missed your touchdown catch, and then a missed field goal. But Bo Nix, he might be one of those guys that just has the magic, finds ways to win.
That big hit by Kamate Kofi. Fourth quarter, still playing hard.
Protect yourself at all times. Almost got there right as the handoff was being performed. Hold your breath if you're on that Alabama sideline for the true freshman. As you mentioned earlier, took one to the house on his first touch, only his third touch in his young Alabama career.
It's made by Giles Amos, the senior tight end. It'll set up a fourth down. Can we go back to the "it's hot up here" comment? Translation, Taylor, I disagree.
Well, I mean, you know, saying you got to push the fluids. Pal.
I think Auburn will win the game. I just think Tulane with the triple option that they run could pose a threat tonight. I don't know that it's Army-Michigan type situation, but of course Auburn is the last opponent in the regular season for the Crimson Tide. We'll go through that schedule here in just a moment. Fielded at the 33-yard line. So next week at the Gamecocks, Southern Miss here at home. What do you think is the most difficult regular season test for Alabama this year?
Well, it might not happen. We just talked about Texas A&M, so that's what I was saying. But you see November 9th, you get LSU, you get them at home. Mississippi State's not what we thought. I don't think they'll be what they were a season ago, where they certainly gave Alabama offensively more than they wanted. And then, as you're saying, you know, who knows? By the end of the year, in the Iron Bowl, maybe Auburn's got it figured out. And Bo Nix is contributing more broadly in that running game, and they get it figured out.
Guys, I think one of the more interesting questions, too, is this going to be one of the more difficult years for Nick Saban, just knowing how much youth that's on that team and looking at that schedule, too. I mean, they've looked good today, but this is nowhere near the competition they're going to face in the SEC. I mean, do you guys think that this might be a down year for Alabama standards?
Well, I think it's a great question, especially about their defense, Alyssa, and the depth that they have. They cannot afford any more injuries. And already Moses and McMillan, your linebacker core, out for the season. They've had significant injuries in the last couple of years, but their depth has been so strong. I'm not sure that they can, Pete Golding and Nick Saban can afford those kind of injuries. This year as Romero runs past the 50-yard line. They're relying on some fresh faces as true freshmen, and no disrespect to Duke or New Mexico State.
Sure.
How are those guys going to fare when they play the Aggies and play the LSU Tigers?
Well, and you know what? By then, they're no longer freshmen. You know, it's a technicality. You hear all these coaches say that, and there's some validity to that. Is that, you know, you've got playing experience. Now, the challenge is, as you see defensive coordinator Pete Golding there, making sure that those guys aren't reverting back to things that they could get by with as high school players while they're trying to be starters in the Southeastern Conference. And it's easy for that to happen. You know, you flip into survival mode as a player and you revert back to old habits. They may be bad habits. You know, he mentioned Pete Golding was talking about Christian Harris and the fact that he played defensive back and wide receiver. The good part about him now being an inside linebacker is that he's got no bad habits to fix. It's not like he played linebacker poorly before. He didn't play linebacker. And so it's a clean slate. He's a guy that's getting out there, and yeah, he's learning on the job. Right now, he's the MAC linebacker in there for Shane Lee, and he's getting much needed reps. As you see where he would have ranked number 6 athlete, not linebacker, not defensive back, athlete in the ESPN 300.
Hard as a backup tailback for New Mexico State, and he moves the chains again. And Golding clearly impressed Nick Saban, who's at UT San Antonio, as you said earlier, as a defensive coordinator, and Bo Davis, who used to coach here, told Coach Saban about him, came to interview for the job, and Coach Golding spent 6 hours interviewing with Coach Saban and was offered the job that night. The language he speaks is clearly the Saban language.
Well, what was fascinating too about that story was I think the meeting at least was abbreviated because Coach Saban had to leave for a dance recital for his granddaughter. So once again, Miss Terry influencing things. Right. And obviously his love for his granddaughter. But 6 hours on the board, and Pete Golding mentioned, he said, after a while I realized, wait a minute, he's asking me questions on how I would defend an offense, and it occurred to him, this is Clemson's offense. And so you just think, Coach Saban doesn't waste any time, right? So here he is, he's taking a look at a guy who he might want to bring on, and it just so happens he's wanting to see how he would defend an offense that he was going to be coaching against. And also evaluating whether or not he wanted to hire Pete Golding.
Eli Anderson with the catch inside the 25-yard line. It's a first down for New Mexico State. I think all of those choices that he's made in the last year and a half have been to compete against Clemson, compete against the best teams in the country, and he's made a lot of changes this offseason with 7 new assistant coaches. Brian Baker now the defensive line coach. Charles Kelly, now coaching the safeties, former Florida State and Tennessee assistant, and Sal Sunseri's back again, coaching the outside linebackers. Watch Coach Golding watch this defense on a 1st and 10. Coach Saban watching right next to him.
He doesn't look happy. He doesn't like the way New Mexico State's moving this football. Hands on the hips. You see Coach Golding, looks like he's lassoing something and then casting what looks like a topwater lure of some type, probably, maybe a balsa wood.
What was the kind that Cash Daniel was using?
They're like
floppers?
handmade. Yeah, something like the flop water, top water, or something like that. And again, trying to get some personnel changes there late.
He's ahead to the 16-yard line.
But you can imagine apprenticing under a defensive mind like Nick Saban. And even right now, so in the SEC right now, you've got 3 former defensive coordinators that are now head coaches. All 3 of them, incidentally, in the SEC East. Will Muschamp from his time at LSU. You see Jeremy Pruitt up at Tennessee, now a head coach. And, of course, Kirby Smart, the head coach at the University of Georgia, thought to be maybe the closest contender to Alabama here in the conference. Certainly proven to be a very close proxy the last 2 times they've met, but still short.
How about a shout out to this kid here, Josh Foley, and the way that he's been running in the 4th quarter. Redshirt freshman from Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Foley with 51 yards rushing, a day he'll never forget running in Bryant-Denny Stadium. The rest of the team just has 42 yards. Romero to the end zone, incomplete. Trying to throw that to Navion Mitchell with 1:26 left.
New Mexico State came in here. They're going to get what they wanted. They're going to get close to $2 million for having made this trip. Seems like they will finish this game largely intact. From an injury standpoint, you get Roy Lopez back, your best defensive player. Did not play in this game at all. Javon Ferguson as well.
End around to Drew Dan. Dan is shoved out of bounds just shy of the goal line. Josh Jobe forced him out. It'd be 1st and goal.
And a chance to put it in the end zone one more time. So a lot of folks were closely watching the field goal attempt earlier. Now, of course, opportunity to pad their scoring in this game to tighten the margin.
12th play of the drive for the Aggies. Anderson is stoned at the 2.
picks up a first down. And, we talked about earlier, Pete Golding standing alongside Nick Saban. Neither looked very enthused about the way this series was unfolding. And this is why. You want those guys to get in there and get reps. You also want them to earn their way off of the football field. Instead, the Aggies had other things in mind.
Romero, he's not going to get there. Daniel Wright, the sophomore from Fort Lauderdale, the first one to him. 2nd and goal.
Situational football. You bow your necks. You finally slow this drive down. Romero moving the football down the field. And as you mentioned, guys contributing at running back as well.
There's 25 seconds to go in the game here, and they still don't have a play called. They do have all 3 of their timeouts. I think they'd like to get out of here with a score before this one ends. This might be the last play of the game with the way that this is going.
You see Coach Saban, he wants a timeout.
Yeah, Coach Saban will call a timeout.
You realize looks like they've got 12 on the field. They had a late substitution. Coach Saban comes out there and says, let's talk about this.
Second and goal for New Mexico State. 8 seconds to go in the game with the ball at the 2-yard line. Coach Saban calls timeout with 8 seconds left because he had 12 men on the field. Still trying to coach this defense and keep the Aggies out of the end zone.
Let's see if number 22, Jalen Armour Davis, makes a play right here.
He bats the ball down from the quarterback. This redshirt freshman from Mobile, Alabama, by way of St. Paul's Episcopal School.
What are the odds? Didn't you go to St. Paul's Episcopal School?
I may have spent 13 years of my life on Dogwood Lane.
Here comes Jalen Armour Davis, right on cue. All you got to do is ask. Comes on that edge pressure, gets a pass deflection.
3rd and goal, 4 seconds left. Romero, too high, ball game over. The Crimson Tide win it 62-10. Alabama has won 84 straight versus unranked opponents. That is the longest streak in FBS history.